She woke up before the sun each morning in a small kitchen that felt too cramped for even a single person, let alone the 2 children she had to care for. Every day she rubbed the sleep from her eyes and looked around at the dishes from yesterday, the bills piled on the counter, the worn-out stove, and the tiny fridge that seemed to mock her struggle. Her children were still asleep, and for a moment she let herself breathe just a little and remember why she was doing this, why she stayed awake late at night scraping together pennies, why she never gave up even when the world seemed determined to remind her that she had nothing. She had been a single mother for 3 years, since the day her husband walked out, leaving her with nothing but the echo of promises that would never be kept and a heart full of questions she could not answer. She had worked every job she could find, waiting tables, cleaning offices, answering phones, doing everything anyone would pay her for, but it was never enough. The bills kept coming, the rent kept increasing, and her dreams seemed smaller with each passing day. Yet even in that exhaustion there was a spark, something she could not quite name, a memory of her mother in the kitchen, a smell of fresh baked bread, a feeling of possibility that refused to leave her. She loved to cook, she loved to create, she loved the way the world seemed to pause when she shared something she had made with love, and for a moment she wondered if that passion could be more than just a fleeting joy. In her tiny apartment, one afternoon after another long shift, she returned home, her feet aching, her back sore, and her heart heavier than usual. She looked at her children playing quietly at the kitchen table, coloring pictures, and she felt a pang of longing to give them more than what she had to offer right now. She remembered the way people had always praised her baking, the way friends and neighbors would ask for a jar of her homemade jam or a loaf of bread. She wondered if she could turn that small joy into something bigger, if she could make a life not just for herself but for them. She started small with Facebook posts in a local moms group, offering a few jars of jam for a small price. She stayed up late carefully labeling each one, packing them in whatever containers she could find, and delivering them herself. She barely slept some nights, listening to her children breathe in their sleep, counting every dollar, wondering if she had made the right choice. But slowly orders began to come in, 1, then 2, then 5, and each time her heart lifted a little. Each time she saw her creation bring someone joy, a spark of hope ignited in her chest. The struggle was far from over. She burned batches, she missed deadlines, she faced harsh words from strangers who did not understand the care and effort she put into her work. She packed orders late at night as her children slept beside her. She worried constantly about whether she could continue, whether she could survive, whether she could give them the life she dreamed of. She wanted to quit more than once, but she could not. She reminded herself of the nights when they had nothing, when she had to choose between paying the electric bill or buying food, when she had felt the sharp edge of hopelessness and decided that she would never return there if she could help it. Then came the breakthrough. A local influencer shared her product online, and suddenly she found herself flooded with orders she could not have imagined. She worked around the clock, stretching every moment of her day to accommodate the demand. She rented a small commercial space, her kitchen no longer enough, her hands raw from constant work, her mind racing with ideas and possibilities. Her children watched her tirelessly and began to understand the meaning of perseverance, the meaning of believing in oneself even when everything seemed impossible. The days blurred together, long hours became normal, the struggle became a story of triumph. Every sacrifice she had made, every sleepless night, every burned batch became a stepping stone toward a life she had only dreamed of. She hired employees, she paid off debts, she bought a home, and she watched her children play in a yard she never thought they would have. She felt pride not just in her business, but in the lessons she was teaching them, in the resilience she was modeling, in the love she poured into every corner of their lives. Even in moments of success, she remembered the small kitchen where it had all begun, the cramped space that had felt like a cage, the night when she cried alone at the counter wondering if she was enough. She understood that it had not been the money or the recognition that mattered most, but the courage to keep going when everything told her to stop, the quiet determination to trust in herself, the willingness to take a risk on a dream, even when the odds were stacked against her. Her story became one that others noticed, a beacon for single mothers and struggling dreamers everywhere. She spoke at local events, she shared her journey online. She encouraged those who felt stuck to take the first step, even if it was small, even if it was terrifying. She knew intimately the fear of failure, the weight of doubt, the crushing pressure of responsibility. And she knew how transformative it could be to see someone who had walked that path rise above it. Her business continued to grow. She expanded her product line, she hired more staff, she invested in her community. She never forgot the kitchen table, where it had all started, the smells of fresh baked bread, the laughter of her children, the quiet moments of hope that kept her moving forward. she realized that success was not measured only in dollars or numbers, but in the lives touched, in the confidence built, in the dreams made possible for those who had almost given up. She often reflected on the journey, the impossible nights, the endless days, the moments of despair, the flashes of triumph. And she knew that the story was not just hers, but theirs too, the children who had watched her fight, the friends who had supported her, the strangers who had believed in her creations, and the countless others who would now dare to dream because she had dared first. She understood that courage was contagious, and that one small spark of belief could ignite a flame that spread far beyond what anyone could imagine. In the quiet of her kitchen one evening, she stood alone looking at the jars she had created, thinking of the long road that had brought her here. She felt gratitude for the struggle, for the doubt, for the fear that had pushed her to work harder, for the love that had kept her awake, and the hope that had never faded. She smiled softly, knowing that she had become more than she had imagined, that she had built not just a business, but a life, a legacy, a story that would inspire long after she was gone. And so the woman who had begun with nothing more than a small kitchen and 2 children under the age of 5 had created a life that defied every expectation, that challenged every limitation, and that proved in the simplest terms that determination, love, and courage could change the world, even in the smallest of spaces, even in the darkest of nights, even in the heart of struggle. She looked at her children playing quietly on the floor and whispered to herself that they would never know the meaning of giving up, because they had inherited the spirit of a mother who refused to stop, who refused to settle, who believed that even the tiniest spark could grow into a fire that would light the way. And in that moment, in the warm glow of the kitchen lights, she understood that every tear, every fear, every late night, and every small victory had been worth it, because she had discovered not only the strength to survive, but the power to thrive and to inspire, and to remind the world that even when life seems impossible, there is always a way to rise to greatness. In the end, Shirley Chisholm did not measure success solely by titles or elections. She measured it by impact. She measured it by the doors opened and the minds changed. She understood that history often begins with a single voice rising above doubt. And so her voice continues to echo, not as a whisper of the past, but as a call to the present, a call to stand firm, a call to speak clearly, a call to believe that even when the world says not yet, courage can answer, why not now?